I guess about a month ago, I promised you that we are going to also have the Keycloak fine-grained authorization in Node.js. I promised in this video or this one, like wherever it appears. But today is the day, and let's just jump into it. Just as a quick review for the clients in Keycloak, they are basically a way for Keycloak to identify your application. So you have two parts in the application, right? One part is the UI, which is publicly available. Everyone can access the address and then press login. What will happen as soon as they press login, you want to show them a login page. You will use a public client. You cannot use a confidential client because for the confidential client, you need the client ID, client secret to communicate with Keycloak. And in that case, you have to expose that in your JavaScript in the UI. And it is something that you don't want to have. So you will use a public client like what we had before here, like I will mostly call it UI client, and it has some redirect URLs and so on to verify your UI application as well. This is going to give you an access token, and your APIs from then is going to send the access token with a request to the backend. And your backend has now two ways to authenticate this token. Either it will do it offline, it will get the keys from Keycloak, cache them, and say, okay, I will just verify these access tokens with these keys from Keycloak through the signature, and that's it. I don't care about anything else, and I will do perhaps authorization myself. Or if you want a higher security and then ask Keycloak, okay, is this token still valid? Of course, the expiration you can handle yourself, but let's say Keycloak actually have sessions. So let's say that if you have killed the session, right now it's empty. If you have killed the session, you don't want the user to be able to access anymore. And with Keycloak, you can do that. Keycloak is going to check if a session still exists for this token. If not, then this token is not valid anymore and the API cannot be reached. Now, the confidential client can be used beside authentication also for authorization. This is a feature comes with Keycloak which you can turn on. Of course, it's not mandatory, it's optional. You can have your own authorization implemented, but for, I would say, simple to medium level authorization cases, Keycloak fine-grained authorization works perfectly. If you want to go a level higher, it may get complicated to configure it as we have seen it before. But you can enable it, and then it can also tell you, for example, what resources through which scopes you can access based on which rules. This is the policies. And the binding of these three kind of comes from the permissions. Yeah, so this was just a review of what the clients are, and we are going to get into a little bit drawing theory, let's say. As I was editing the video, this part where I say, let's get into drawing, is not needed because I already have explained these in the authorization video, so just go check them out there. This video is only about Node.js and how to use the Keycloak authorization inside Node.js. Okay, so I went deep into it to check and integrate Keycloak Node.js adapter, and then I realized, unfortunately, it is not documented here, but if you go to the GitHub page, the package is deprecated. So I actually tried to integrate it and work with it. It's kind of similar to what I had also in C#. Like if you can check, if you check here, you see, for example, it has this Keycloak enforcer middleware where you can actually add it as a middleware in your service, in your routes, and then start. But no worries, we are not going to use that. I have prepared something here. What do we want actually? So if you remember from this video, which I shared the link on the top, we learned how to do post calls against Keycloak to see, for example, if someone is authorized, which resources they can access, and things like that. Well, it is just simple to just use them, and we can create middlewares here to authorize someone. What I did is that I have a middleware called the HTTP context middleware. What will happen as soon as the request comes in, it is going to create a new instance of the HTTP context, and what is inside the HTTP context is the privates of the request and response, and also an identity context. And now this is where I can come and create my identity methods. For example, one method here is going to be like authorize, right? So this is going to be authorize, and like the name and what it authorizes can be just a permission, and for now just returns true. And then you simply can just come here and add a new middleware from this middlewares here, and say, for example, I need the authorization to work. So like you just pass the authorization middleware, the request, response, and so on. And so the thing is that when I added the let me show you. So since I have this HTTP context, I am declaring it globally to add it as the middleware everywhere. So add it as a property on the under the request. So here, as you see here, this one, I just got distracted. So now I can actually access it here. So let's say that I can say, hey, I want to authorize, and since I am reading grades, so I say grades read. And then my authorize method can just connect to Keycloak. It already have the headers, which, for example, have the authorization. And then I can just get the let me see, actually I can, yeah, so I can just get the authorization header from here and then send it to Keycloak and see if everything works. One other thing that I did is that I am using this Keycloak JSON for convenience. What is this Keycloak JSON and where you can get it from is this. So if you come to your identity server, which is Keycloak, and you go under your realm, under the client which you want to use for authorization. Here you can find download adapter config, and this one is the default config for the for this client, and it has everything I need. It has a secret, which I don't really need the secret right now. The secret is going to be needed when I want to synchronize some resources. Then I have the path to my identity server, the public path to the identity server, where I can actually build the rest of the actually I can just read then this from it. So if I come to the realm, then based on that path I can say, okay, I am under the, let me find it again, so I am under the realm university. So I can say okay, so realms university, and this is a standard for most of the identity servers. And then I can just get everything, and then I only need this endpoint. Then I can just get this endpoint from Keycloak, this JSON file. I can cache it, I can pre-calculate it even myself. You can put it even into the configuration. You just can put it here directly, and you can then so on deployment, then you can put this inside the config map. If you're using Kubernetes, you can use a config map, and then you can copy this into your pod, or you can just simply use the environment variables. But for me, it suffices. I'm just going to use this config inside my identity context. So just simply I'm going to say import Keycloak config, for example, from go back, Keycloak JSON. Then the Keycloak config, I have everything that I need. So yeah, this should do the job. I would say I'm gonna go on and implement this. I'm just going to show you what happened. I'm not going to record this with voice because I don't want to bother you with my keyboard noise anymore right now. Okay, so now it's working. What I did is simple here. I have one getter which is going to get the token URL, and I'm calculating the token URL based on the auth server URL, which is coming from the Keycloak JSON. As you see, it is this one. And then I already have the realm also, then the protocol open ID, and then like this is the standard from Keycloak. Then what I would do is that I first check if the authorization header is there or not. If not, then just return false. You don't need to check anything. Other than that, go in and then now make your request. By the way, I'm using Undici. This is an alternative to Axios. It's much faster. You can actually also go and try it out. It is this GitHub repository here, and also it is maintained by the core Node.js team. So you can just go on and try it out for yourself, or you can also just try it out with this repository. As you see, I'm making a request. The request structure is kind of like a fetch, and then I will get my body and the status code. The status code, if it is 200, I'm just going to say, okay, give me the body, like the JSON, finish the request, it means. And as we already know, on the decision response mode, Keycloak is going to return an object only contains result as Boolean. And then I'm just going to simply return it. And where I'm using it directly here, but these can also get much more refactored and look nicer. You can definitely use a smaller function here, but I'm going to do that soon. But let's go on and see what will happen right now. So right now it's always forbidden because John right now do not have the manager role. So right now if I add the manager role and my token is not expired, I should be able to go through. So it is expired. Let me get a new token. Let's unassign to make sure that we are on the right track. So I'm just going to create a new token, and this is the token. I'm just going to set the token here. I think I don't need to mention that this token, when you are in production, comes from your UI or like comes from your client. Doesn't matter if your client is on the browser, is on the phone, or maybe is another application completely. So right now I'm doing it by hand, but later for you it should come from a public client. So now so we got forbidden. Now let's go on and assign a role to see what will happen. I still get forbidden. Let me also assign the super user because I don't exactly remember this one. Yeah, okay. So what happened here is probably that in my authorization in the permissions where I have the domain type creation, yes. So here I am mentioning that everything has to be true. Also here I'm only counting on the super user. Let me get the manager role too. And when I have the anonymous set to true, this means that all of the roles here has to all of the policies should check out. So right now, if I come back here and remove the role super user, I still should get forbidden. Yes, because we are depending on all of the policies to be true. So let me go on and then set this to affirmative and save. Now we are good again. So as you see, this part is working. Right now we are doing the authorization. This is how the authorization would work for you as well. What else you can do, for example, is that when, for example, you have an ID here, right? So you are getting a put. In that case, you can build your permission based on this ID. But I'm going to put this in the middleware. So let's just go on and then create a middleware. I'm gonna call it auth the middleware ts, and it's just going to be a function like this. I'm not going to fully rely on not fully rely on the Copilot, just a little bit. So what do we want? We exactly want to do what we did here, except that our auth z middleware also has to accept some other
A few minutes later.
Okay, now I think I know what I do. So what I would do here is that I'm going to just create a function which is going to return a handler for the authorization. So then here is going to be our response next function, and then we are just going to implement everything that we did there. So the permission doesn't matter, and then but the rest is just going to be as it is. So right now I should be able to come here and say authorize and call it person create. Okay, so this is wrong. Word of the middleware. Now it should be good to go. Yeah, okay, so now it works. And now if I also come back to the clients of the authorization, permissions, domain, and set this, it shouldn't work. Yes. Yeah, okay, so just like that, we have a nice authorization. So yeah, let's go on and then inside the middleware create a new function. Actually, before that, what I want to do is also to create something else than authorize. And let me think about this. Yeah, so we need another function here. Let's call it query with permission, I would call it. We do not have really a permission. Let me see. Yes, we do. We do actually. We do have the permission, and the permission is just like the Keycloak default syntax. So it is like, let me find it. It is like this. So for example, you say, give me all the resources which I can create. So then the response mode is permissions. So this is what I would do. And then in the response, I would set all the IDs which are going to come back to the identity context, so I can use them in my requests, like when the so because what will happen is that, let's say that I have a query which says get people list, and then in here I also have access to the request, right? So actually I have access to the HTTP context, so I can say HTTP context identity and give me all the IDs that I can read, right? So this is the other thing I can do. So let's go on and do this with the query with permissions, and we are going to come back and explain it what happened. Okay, so I went on and did some refactoring. Let me explain this to you. By the way, you can just take this, inspire from this, maybe create a library from it. But don't forget, if you went to the GitHub repository, add a star on it. So let me tell you what I did. First of all, I removed or moved out our authorization request out of the authorized function, because it was kind of the same request, only the permission is a variable, and the mode, the response mode, is either decision or permissions. And what else is here is that when the permission returns something other than the 200 range successful request, I'm just going to log a message and say undefined. And then when it is undefined, I'm just going to say it's not authorized. But if it is authorized, what I'm going to do is that, if you remember from the video I shared, when the response mode is set to permissions, Keycloak is going to return the RS ID, which is the resource ID inside the Keycloak itself. And the RS name is the unique name that we have synchronized with Keycloak. Now, we synchronize, for example, person and the ID of the person and things like this, based on like however our architecture is. Then in the response, I'm getting this back, and I'm just simply setting it to the allowed resources from the identity context. In my middleware, what I am doing is, let me go in it. I have a query with permission middleware, and what it does is simply just going to call the permissions from the identity context. And if I go to the person, it now looks like this. Now this means that if I do not have a token, or my token is expired, or Keycloak doesn't say doesn't send back something successful, it is going to fail. and then it's going to say forbidden, it is 403. But I mean, one thing that could be nice to fix is that when token is not there at all, we have to return a 404, no, sorry, a 401. But for now, it doesn't matter. And what will happen now is that when it is successful, the request gonna go on, and then it's going to get into my handler. Now, when it gets to my handler, I'm just logging what are the allowed resources. What you can now do with this is to just use these allowed resources, because you will use this only for certain queries, especially the queries which has pagination in them. You're listing something, searching through something, and so on, or you're just returning something by the ID. Then you're going to, by the ID, it's not really exactly similar, but you can use it. You have a faster way too, because you can just say, I want this person underline the ID of the person with the permission read, right? So that's faster. But you definitely can also use the same here. What you do is that you just pass these allowed resources to your query, and then you say, okay, I want only the query to be done on these IDs, like in SQL is going to be where ID in this array. Yeah, but I hope that you go on and try it. Let me try it quickly here for you. Right now, if I get this, get the request, as you see, it is going to return the list of people that I can read. I'm not using it, so it is going to return everything for me. But I guess you should have a good ground right now based on Node.js, .NET, the Keycloak itself, to combine these together and build your authorization. One thing not to forget is to behave your authorization middleware as generic as possible, because it is like your data layer, right? In the data layer, you will have the possibility to have repositories to be able to replace your database perhaps with something else, and so on, which not gonna happen that often, but to keep in mind that maybe your identity server is going to change. So it's better to keep it inside this identity context, because then everything else in the code doesn't need really to change, because where you are going to get the load resources is going to be the same other places too. The place that you get authorized true or false, it is going to be the same, but just the logic is going to change. With all that being said, I guess you should have right now a good understanding of the authorization, how it works in Node.js, how it would work in .NET, and how is it in Keycloak. And I hope that you guys go try it. If you like this video, don't forget to add a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, also let me know why you didn't. And if you want more contents like this, make sure to subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. And with that, I hope you have fun with authorization and you're not scared of it anymore, because it's actually really simple. And let me know if you had any questions, and yeah, have fun. Cheers.